What is up everyone, and welcome to F1 24, and we are here for the first video in my driver career mode. We're sacking off my team career mode and we are going to be starting a brand new F1 driver career. Starting in F2, of course. I did outline this in my video with my plans for this season. If you've not watched that one yet, I definitely would recommend going and checking that out, because that will tell you everything that you're likely to be seeing on this channel, career mode wise and otherwise as well. So definitely worth going and checking that one out. But yeah, before we get into the actual racing, of course, we've got to set up everything. You can see that I am showing off my driver here and everything, and you'll be able to see all the sort of decisions I make leading up to the start of the career, including the driver academy I'm joining, which is going to be Ferrari Driver Academy. I think most of you probably know which team I'm hoping to get into when it comes to being in Formula 1, but if you don't know, then it is going to be Haas, the team that we're aiming for, my favourite team on the grid, and the one that I will be hoping to be driving for. We have to pick a team to drive for in F2 as well, and upon doing some research, I've decided I'm going to drive for this team here, PHM, and the reason for that is that their driver lineup is these two people, Roy Nissany and Brad Benavides, and I've decided that Brad Benavides is going to be my teammate this season. I picked this one just simply because these two drivers are probably some of the sort of least notable on the last year's Formula 2 grid. No disrespect to them or anything, but it's just the way that it goes. Not everyone can be remarkable in Formula 2, and I don't think either of those two drivers really had the most exciting Formula 2 career. So we've replaced Roy Nissany. He will no longer be on the grid, and we will be teaming up with Brad Benavides to hopefully do something good for PHM in the constructors, but at least show my skills enough to the point that I can get myself into Formula 1. And we have amped up the Formula 1 requirement as well. It's going to be a little bit harder to get into Formula 1 now, so we're going to need to try extra hard to make sure that we are able to get in there, which means that I'm basically going to have to try and be fast from the get-go here. And well, if you're wondering why I'm showing you a lap I'm driving in practice, that's because this is my very first lap that I've driven on the game. I literally dove straight in. I didn't do any time trial. I didn't do anything. So this race that we're doing now, or this this practice program we're doing now here in practice 1 in Bahrain, is the very first lap that I will be driving on F1 24, and so I thought, that's a quite significant thing. I'll show it off to you. And my immediate reactions was, you can feel the car, the bumps and everything in the road way more. They were definitely right about that. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place. I'm not used to feeling sort of this unstable. I don't know if this is truly how a Formula 1 car feels, or whether this is just something that I'm going to have to get used to. But I tell you something that I didn't notice that a lot of people were saying is the sort of the sensitivity of the car being a bit higher. People saying it's far more responsive through the corners. Instead, I was actually feeling maybe kind of the opposite in some places, where I was going through some of these corners and I was full lock in one direction or another, and the car would turn in initially and then would kind of start understeering halfway through the corner, which is something that I felt was very bizarre, given that you would expect if a car is going to understeer, that it understeers on entry to the corner rather than on the exit of the corner. But either way, we managed to pass the program almost flawlessly. We had that one green in there. So yeah, pretty good first lap on the game, all things considered, and we'll see what our pace shows us being in the end of practice here. You can see we were all the way down in P22, in fact. I don't think that this is a completely unreasonable situation. Obviously still calibrating the difficulty for this year, because the difficulty does change year on year. We were only 4/10 off of Stanek in 21st as well, so I'm hoping that we will be a little bit better in qualifying and in the race as well. Now, you don't usually show these kinds of screens, but I thought since it's brand new, I'll have a look at this. You get to see the resource point change. Obviously it's nothing in F2 because there are no resource points. And here we go, the driver ratings. This is the big one. So obviously practice, it's mostly just about getting comfortable with the car, so it makes sense the only stat that I would really gain is that experience, but we've already gained something. And they also have a thing there where you can see the breakdown of exactly why you gained as much as you did, and you can see it's because I perfected a certain amount of programs, passed a certain amount, and drove a certain amount of laps as well. So yeah, that is pretty interesting. And hopefully, we'll be able to build up that driver rating over the course of the career, because I believe there is a trophy that you can unlock for getting to 99 driver rating, so that has definitely got to be one of the goals that we set for ourselves. And now it is time for qualifying here in Bahrain. Now, those of you who don't really watch F2, you may not know, but the way that qualifying works is that there is one 30-minute session, and you only get one set of tyres to do it on. So feasibly, I'm only going to do 2 laps here, and I may have just wasted the first one there by going a bit deep into turn 10 there. I was quite struggling through that corner, to be honest with you. It just really felt like I couldn't get the car slowed down anywhere near as much as I wanted to. So I was struggling a little bit through turn 10, but hopefully, you know, as we get a bit more experience in the car. Obviously I've only driven like 7 laps before this point in practice, so I'm still kind of getting used to it a little bit, and hopefully we'll be able to understand the car a bit more, understand the braking points around the circuit and all that kind of thing as we bed in a bit more in practice. But what it does unfortunately mean is that we are going to be in a position where our best lap is probably not going to be a particularly optimal one, because if we do improve on our next flying lap, we'll be going out on a used set of tyres anyway, so there would have been room for more improvement there. It's a 141.2, which initially puts us in P6. However, you know, you would be a fool if you believe that I am going to be staying in this position. I'd imagine I would fall down a little bit, and indeed you can see that at the end of the session we were P16. In fact, that was still our best lap. I didn't even show you the second lap because I didn't improve on it at all. So yeah, just a little bit disappointing there. But hopefully, you know, we'll be able to get to grips with the car a bit more, and hopefully deliver a bit more of a good performance over the course of the season. It's a long season, 14 race weekends, and it's time now to get into the first of the 2 races here at the Bahrain Grand Prix.
So it's all about speed in today's sprint race then. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Bahrain represents an exceptional 3.36 miles of racing. Lots of opportunities to overtake throughout its 15 corners. Now, this track has built a reputation for being brutal on the rear tyres, so keep an eye on how these young drivers manage their rubber. Strategy here could ultimately determine the winner of the race. It's the start of the new campaign, and what better way to get underway than with a high-speed sprint? We welcome Alex Brundle to the commentary box. Alex, what are you looking forward to?
All of the different scenarios we can gather together when you put these great young drivers out on circuit. It's going to be a brilliant year, full of action, and I can't wait to get going with this first sprint.
Okay, mate, I know it's tough in there, it's hot in that cockpit, but your tyres are even hotter, so you're going to have to work extra hard to keep them cool. It matters for performance.
So, the way that Formula 2 race weekends work, for those of you who still maybe aren't completely up to speed on what's going on here, there is a sprint race and then there is a feature race. Now, the sprint races are not like Formula 1 in the sense that they are not sort of like a third of the length of a true race distance. They're closer to about 40% of the length of a full race distance, I would say. And then there is another race, which is the feature race, and that is about 60% of a true Formula 1 race distance. So in this scenario, in the Bahrain Grand Prix, I'm racing on 50%, obviously. You would expect in Formula 1 it would be 29 laps, and so that's divided up into 12 laps for the sprint here and 16 for the feature. But we will see what we can do in the sprint as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and we were held what felt like an eternity. And I tell you, one thing I noticed immediately here is that they do seem to have maybe fixed the starts here a little bit and made you a little bit less OP on the start, because I was not, you know, making up my trademark 3 or 4 positions off the start. But eventually I actually did manage to do that just by, you know, pushing my way through a little bit, going around the outside of some of the cars who are defending a bit harder to the inside, and we're already up to P11 here, so we're looking pretty good. We're battling with Zane Maloney, and I will have to brake nice and early for this corner to make sure I don't slam into the back of Jahan Daruvala there. But I think that we have just about managed to get the move done on Zane Maloney, but he's actually kept his foot in here. The AI was, you know, way more racy, way more aggressive than I was used to. I was kind of expecting he would have backed out by now, but he's come through the run through this corner. You can see he's just shoved me straight off track. That is, you know, a lot more aggressive than I was expecting. That's the kind of thing that I would expect when I'm doing a, you know, a league race or an online race or something like that. You know, Zane Maloney just absolutely pushing his way past me, and we're down into P12 now, so we're going to have to try and, you know, regroup and see if we can get back past the Barbadian driver. And make our way up into P11 once again, see if we can get into the points in this race. In the sprint race, obviously, it's kind of the similar point scoring to Formula 1. I don't think it's exactly the same, but I can't remember exactly how many points you get for each position. But yeah, only the top 8 get awarded points is the critical thing. And the other thing, which doesn't really make a difference to me because I started in 16th, but in the sprint, the top 10 from qualifying are reversed. So I think it was Ayumu Iwasa got pole position in qualifying, but he will be starting in P10 in this race. So whatever positions he can make up from there will be a good performance from him. And then in the feature race, he will be starting on pole position, but will still be starting in 16th because it doesn't make a difference for drivers outside the top 10 in qualifying. So as we make our way onto lap number 2 now, you can see we have made up quite a few positions up into lap 12. And we're actually going to go for a move here on Zane Maloney. And, well, I'm just kind of learning the ropes with this game and learning that some of the moves that you could go for on previous games where the AI would kind of, you know, leave the door open, hold it open for you and say, come on through. Now they're not doing that anymore. You know, if you go for an audacious move, they probably will close the door on you, which is actually, you know, a pretty good change in my opinion. Yes, it kind of was throwing me off in this race because I was like, this move should work. Why isn't this move working? You know, I'm not like completely against the idea of doing that because it feels a lot more realistic to how people would actually race. You know, people aren't just going to leave the door open for you at all times. They are going to actually try and hold position if they can. So as we make our way through lap number 3 here, you can see we've actually fallen outside of Zane Maloney's DRS range. This is just to give you an idea of, you know, how much I was struggling a little bit to get to grips with the game. To give you an idea, I'm racing on 98 AI at the moment, which is the same AI difficulty that I was racing on at the end of F1 23. Now, I've heard that the AI is a lot more difficult in this year's game than it was in last year's game, which I can corroborate based on the one F1 24 stream I've done so far, where I, you know, boldly was like, I did challenge career, and I was like, let's go on expert. You know, I'm no slouch. So we tried expert, and I got my arse absolutely handed to me, and I had to actually restart the whole thing and go down in difficulty. And even then, I was struggling a little bit. So I think they have done some massive AI improvements on this game, which you know, has caused me to be quite far down compared to where I would have expected to be here. And you can see now we've been overtaken by both Victor Martins and Clement Novalak as well. So 2 positions in the space of 1 corner. They actually make a bit of contact there. I don't think Novalak got damaged though. I think what that was something I was noticing a fair amount over the course of you know, the races I was doing yesterday. I found that a lot of the AI, you know, they would brake quite hard into the corners, and you'd actually be able to see the marbles coming off of the tyres if they brake quite hard into a corner. So, yeah, make our way onto lap 5 now, and you can see that we have an in-race objective, our first in-race objective. This is a brand new feature for this year's game, and they are asking me to get past Clement Novalak before lap 8, so I've got until the end of lap 7 to try and get past him. That does seem, you know, feasible. We are only a few tenths behind him, but my pace in this race generally, you know, has not been great. And if you know, compare and contrast this to previous year's games, I'm not really the kind of person that tends to be able to overtake the drivers that I'm racing with. Typically, I just kind of get a good qualifying and hold station. So when on the rare occasion I do get a bad qualifying, I find it very, very difficult to make my way through the field. We brake a little bit late there. I was, like I said, really struggling to kind of get the car slowed in a way that I was, you know, expecting it to. Just the sort of the new physics model was kind of, you know, making me a bit more reckless, I guess, but it wasn't deliberately. I was just kind of expecting the car to have as much grip as it had in previous years' games, and it didn't, and that was throwing me off a little bit. But yeah, we make our way towards the end of lap 7 now. We made that bit of contact with Novalak a little bit earlier, but we have managed to stay in the position, and unfortunately we couldn't get past Novalak before lap number 8. However, as we make our way down into turn 1, I did think about going for a move here on Clement Novalak, and it turned out to be the wrong decision there because we actually have minor front wing damage now. Yes, it is very minor, like I said, but yeah, it was a bit of a bold move from me. Once again, it was just me expecting to be able to go for a move that you couldn't go for in previous years' games. So I tried a tried and true method that I like to do a lot on F123 as well. I dummied Novalak to the inside, and then I moved back to the outside and swept around the outside of him. And even with minor front wing damage, that was still a very trivial overtake. And yeah, frustratingly, as soon as the objective isn't there anymore, I was able to find the key to overtaking Clement Novalak here, and we've made our way up into P13. We get another in-race objective here now, and that is to not damage my front wing for the next 3 laps, so until the end of lap 11, which I guess makes sense, you know, when I did damage my front wing. I actually thought this was a pretty cool objective, because I was like, okay, so the objectives actually do react to what happens to you in the race. And you know, I've had some kind of silly ones, in my opinion. You know, there's been a few races that I've done, and I've kind of felt like, oh, okay, this is a bit of a strange objective to give me, but you know, I've had other ones as well. Like when I was doing Challenge Career, you know, I won't spoil it too much because I probably will upload a video of me doing Challenge Career, but yeah, one thing that I did notice was when I had drained the battery, when I was trying to muck around with the ERS modes a bit more, I found that I was really able to you know, fight a bit harder now that you can mess around with those ERS modes in F1, of course. But the other thing was that they actually gave me an objective to charge the battery after I drained the battery. So yeah, that was something that was really quite interesting. I really think I do like these in-race objectives. I know for a lot of people they'll probably be like, ah, you know, it's whatever, it doesn't change, it just gamifies the game more, which, you know, you would kind of expect that from a game in my opinion. But yeah, I personally quite like them. And well, you can see that we have in fact passed our first in-race objective now. We failed the first one we got, but this one we did manage to pass. We managed to avoid damaging the front wing for a few laps, and now hopefully we'll just be able to hold off Clement Novalak to the end of the race. I actually was closing down the cars in front a little bit. We definitely seem to be keeping pace with them towards the end of the race, but no matter what happened, I just I couldn't seem to close up Martins and Maloney enough to the point that I could actually go for any sort of overtake or anything like that. With the DRS, they were in a bit of a train. There's kind of 2 trains in this race, one being led by me and one being led by whoever's leading the race, which I believe is Oliver Behrman. So yeah, it was 2 trains, and I just couldn't seem to connect up to the front train. And as a result of that, I think we're going to have to be settling for P13 here, unfortunately. So we will be walking away from our first race in F2 completely pointless, which is a bit of a shame. But, you know, hopefully it's a bit of a longer race in the feature race, and hopefully we'll be able to bounce back as we cross the line to take P13 here in Bahrain for the sprint race. But, yeah, like I said, one more race this weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to make a bit of a better go of things. We'll see who got driver of the day. It was, in fact, Oliver Behrman, who I believe did win the race, so congratulations to him. And, yeah, we will make our way now to the feature.
So, another excellent win from Prema.
Well, it's just the first sprint of the year, but what a great start. They'll be looking to do more of that in the longer race tomorrow.
As we look back on a thrilling race here today, we can now see the drivers take their places on the podium. It's a familiar sight by now, as it's another successful F2 win for Prema.
Yeah, Prema getting off to a great start here in Formula 2, as you would expect. Oliver Behrman taking the checkered flag first. He's flanked here by Richard Verschoor and Kush Miney. So, yeah, some rookies on the podium. I believe Oliver Behrman, actually, at this point was a rookie as well. And then the more experienced Richard Verschoor as well, completing the podium alongside the 2 rookies as well.
After all this drama, you'll be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you there. Take care.
So, we'll see, where did Brad Benavides finish? 16th. Decent result from him, but yeah, we will have a look back at some of the highlights of the race. Yeah, just generally, some of my first impressions from that first race we did there. I really kind of do enjoy the feeling of the car a little bit. Yes, it does feel a bit more sort of understeery through the exit of the corners, like I was saying, but and this was the thing I felt in my F1 racing as well. This wasn't exclusive to F2 for the record, because obviously it's kind of hard to draw any conclusions just based on F2. But the handling in F2 generally, I felt, you know, was pretty good. It was pretty similar to the F2 handling I'm kind of used to. Maybe it was a little bit harder to get the car turned into the corners than I felt typically, but all in all, I didn't actually think it was too bad. And you know, you can say that you know, the handling is awful in F1 or whatever, and that's fine. That's its own ball game. Yes, I have noticed as well that it is not easy to kind of wrangle control of the car in Formula 1, but in Formula 2, actually, I think it's perfectly fine. It'll be interesting to see if the handling patch they're coming out with will affect Formula 2 as well, because I have a sneaking suspicion now, and I heard that this was a sort of conspiracy that some people were having, and I didn't think there was much weight to it until I actually played the game, where they were saying that basically they deliberately made the handling of the F1 cars crap to try and stop people from developing, you know, grip hacks that would actually be useful in the game, because, you know, they're trying to counter a very you know, widespread online cheating problem. I don't do too much online racing, so it doesn't really make that much of an impact on me. You know, I do dabble in a bit of ranked. Sometimes I stream open lobbies, whatever, but I'm not somebody who races all too much. You know, I do one league race a week, that's about it. But yeah, that's what people were saying, is that supposedly the handling was meant to be crap to kind of counter the grip hackers. I thought that was nonsense, personally, right up until I actually drove an F2. And contrasted that with my experience driving an F1, and it was night and day. F1 felt terrible, and F2 felt pretty good. So my thought process was just that maybe they kept the F2 handling the way it's supposed to be, and the F1 handling is going to be a bit different when they actually apply the patch. I noticed a bit of a glitch there. They actually played marks like radio to you over the highlights reel, which I imagine is not something that's going to be the same going forward. You can see we've had a bit of a boost to our overall rating there. We're now up to 66, and well, I'll show you quickly the breakdown of all of these things. I think that this is pretty cool that you can actually see the breakdown of everywhere that you've gained all of these stats. I'm not always going to show this, obviously, because I don't think it's something that people are going to be super interested in, but as someone who's a bit of a fan of statistics and all that kind of thing, this was something that I found was pretty interesting. But yeah, obviously, like I said, it's a bit of a long-winded video today just to kind of show off all the features, but it won't always be this way. But it is now finally time, after all of this, to get into the feature race.
Hello and welcome from the Bahrain International Circuit here in Sakhir. Down on the grid, the engineers are making their last checks, and today's race will be underway shortly. Plenty of opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit for these young F2 drivers to show what they can do. The best passing opportunity right up there at turn 1, and we should see plenty of action there. But there's another not long after at turn 4. There are 9 right-handers and 6 left-handers, and the possibility that we could see some flat spots at the tightest of those left-handers, that's turn 10. Here is the grid for today's race, which will be starting shortly. Ayumu Awasa lines up on pole position, with Jayan Daruvula alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Martins, Dewitt, Enzo Fittipaldi, Stanek, Behrman, Leclerc, Vishor, Kushmini, Pourchaire, Novalak, Zane Maloney, Amory Cordial, Hadjar, Robinson, Hauger, and Ralph Boschong. Benavides, Vesti, Correa, and Jack Crawford completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. The new season starts now. I'm Alex Jakes, Alex Brundle is alongside me, and it is time to restart Formula 2. We're so excited to be back. Alex, what are you expecting from this season?
Put 22 of the world's best young racing drivers in a pot, some great venues, press go, and it kicks out a champion. I cannot wait to see who comes out on top at the end of the year.
Right, mate, I know it's hot in that cockpit, believe me, but your tyres are even hotter than that. You've got to work really hard today to keep them cool, otherwise we're going to suffer with our performance.
So, feature race. This one is a bit different. Unlike in the sprint race where there is no mandatory pit stop and you just go to the end on the same set of tyres all the way, there is a mandatory pit stop here in the feature race. We're going to be taking it around lap number 8, although if you know anything about me, you can imagine I will probably be boxing maybe a lap or two earlier than that. I think probably just 1 lap, maybe pushing the hards. For 10 laps might not be the play here if everyone else is only going to be doing it for 8 laps or so. But yeah, we will see how the undercut works on this game, whether there is still what I like to call the undercut meta, or whether that is not a thing anymore. I thought it was interesting that we got that radio message about the tyres being hot, and I'm going to have to work hard to keep them cool, because actually there are no tyre blankets in Formula 2, so the tyres are actually freezing cold at the moment. We're going to have to work quite hard to warm them up, but we'll see what we can do as the lights come on. And the lights go out, as the lights held us for a very long time. Once again, we don't seem to have got the start that we wanted. I don't know if it's my reaction speed is a bit slower or something, or whether truly the AI are just now good at starts, because Dennis Hauger and Ralph Boschung both are going for moves on me here. And you can see that Boschung has crept his way up the inside and up into P16. We came under a bit of pressure there from Frederick Vesti, ended up going wide through the corner there. This is the thing I was talking about with the understeer. It was really catching me out in a couple of positions. We've managed to keep ahead of our former teammate from a parallel universe, Dennis Hauger, and we've actually made it back past Boschung now potentially. But is he going to do the same thing that Zane Maloney did to me at the very start of the sprint race? No, he is not. Ralph Boschung does fall down into P17, and now we're going to see if we can make up a few more positions here on Amory Cordial. Up the inside we go at the hairpin. Can we hold on to this one? I think Cordial is going to try and fight us back here potentially. We're wheel to wheel, and as we make our way into turn 10, eventually Cordial will have to back out of this one, but he doesn't. He dives back up the inside. He refuses to die, and eventually he does have to fall back out of this battle, because he just doesn't have the traction on the exit of the corner. What with being on the inside line, you know, you would expect it would be a little bit harder for him to get the car gripped up on the exit of the corner. But now we are chasing after Isaac Hadjar in P14, and we'll see if we can get ahead of him sooner rather than later. You can see some of the drivers I was racing with in the previous race directly ahead of us as well, including Maloney and Novalak. I feel like Novalak has got to be the goal here once again. He is you know, somebody who I was racing very, very hard with throughout a lot of the sprint race. So if we can beat him in the feature race as well, that would be ideal, and maybe a little bit of a rivalry starting to blossom between myself and Clement Novalak here. Obviously, I don't think the rivalry system is really in place until we get into Formula 1, from what I understand. But we are going to go for a move here on Zane Maloney up the inside, and we actually managed to make this one work this time. He gave us just enough room. We were a little bit closer to him than we have been on the times that we tried to go for some dive bombs there. I don't know why I said Maloney. That was Isaac Hadjar that we just dive bombed, obviously. But into lap 2 either way, we've made our way up into P14, and we are now just one position away from the position that we were in the end of the sprint race. So as we make our way now onto lap number 3, DRS has been enabled once again, and we are right up close to the back of Zane Maloney. We'll see if we can get ahead of him nice and quickly. We are going to go for a dive bomb from a long way back here, and wheel to wheel through the corner. We make a bit of contact there, but it's just tyre on tyre contact, and somehow I've actually managed to pull this one off. We've got the DRS from the exit of the corner. I don't know if Maloney has it to Novalak ahead or not. I don't know if he was quite close enough to Novalak to be able to get it, but either way it's not going to matter as we go up the inside of Maloney there. He can't quite get a cutback on us, and we've made our way up into P13 now, so where we're finished in the sprint, but we'll see if we can actually go one better now and try and catch up to Clement Novalak. But unfortunately what's happened again is he's kind of broken out of that DRS range, and this is allowing Zane Maloney to put some pressure on me. The more pressure I come under from the cars behind, you would imagine the further I'm going to fall behind the cars in front. And again, with that DRS train and all that kind of thing, you would anticipate that it is going to be pretty difficult to keep them at bay. So fortunately we actually did manage to catch up to Clement Novalak, and eventually we got set an objective to overtake him before lap number 9. So I will try my best to do that. Obviously, you know, it's going to be difficult with us being in a DRS train that extends all the way to the front of the field. This is actually the thing about Formula 2 that I think is quite interesting in comparison to Formula 1. is that these because it is a spec series, the DRS trains are usually pretty substantial. Somehow we actually managed to make the adventure off track I just took count as an overtake on Clement Novalak, but you know, I still want to get this overtake done for real if we possibly can. But yeah, because it's a spec series, the cars are always super close together. Nobody usually pulls out a massive gap unless someone is really strong over the course of a weekend. They have a really good race or something. Teo Pourchaire was actually you know, a bit of a master of that in F1 in F2 in 2023. So as we look for a move up the inside of Novalak, and actually I think we may have pulled this one off. I really need to sort of rein in my my dive bombs now on this year's game, I think, because we just can't get away with it like we used to be able to. I keep making contact with these guys. It's not really fair racing, and yeah, we're going to have to try a little bit harder to go for some cleaner moves potentially. But we have nonetheless made our way up into P12. We would have passed the objective anyway, and now as we make our way towards the end of lap 7, I am going to be coming into the pit lane for a set of hard compound tyres. The pit limiter is especially slow now. It's not usually this slow in Bahrain, but they've actually made us go down to 37 miles an hour now, which is you know, ridiculously slow through the pit lane. Usually I think it's 60, but as we get our first trophy in F1 24, which I believe is for getting an optimal grid slot and then getting an optimal pit stop as well. Yeah, we're onto the hard compound tyres now. All is good here in Bahrain, and maybe now potential for us to go for an undercut on some of the cars in front. We were racing, I believe it was Teo Pourchaire was directly in front of us. We were in P12, so we'll see how many positions we can make up with a prospective undercut, and if we can get ahead of Teo Pourchaire and maybe one or two more of the cars that were in front of us before I came into the pit lane, to see whether we can potentially get ourselves our first points here in Formula 2 and hopefully, you know, start chasing after what I hope will be a bit of a championship challenge. You can see not only have I come out ahead of Pourchaire, I've also actually come out ahead of Kushmaini and Richard Vachor as well. So we've made our way up 3 positions already, and we're up into what will be net P9, I suppose. But we'll see now as we make our way towards the end of lap number 9 how many more drivers I can get ahead of. I don't really know who I was racing with now, so we'll have a look. I think, looking at this, I think Leclerc, Fittipaldi, Behrman of the drivers I just overtook were all in front of me. So I believe, you can see now, I believe everyone is pitted. We've done a 6-car undercut coming in a lap or 2 earlier than everyone else. And if we can stay in the DRS of Roman Stanek, we should be able to finish in this position. We should be able to finish here in P6, which would be a remarkable recovery, making our way up 10 positions from where we started in this race. But you know, we've got to stay here first. I don't know what the tyre performance is going to be like, whether it's going to be, you know, difficult to make the tyres work now that I've boxed a little bit earlier than everyone else. But actually they were still feeling pretty good, and they were feeling good enough to go for a dive bomb here on Roman Stanek. So we've made our way into P5 now, and maybe, just maybe, there's an opportunity for us to still get on the podium here today if we can carve our way through the field nice and quickly. We get set a bit of a weird objective here. This is one of the ones I was talking about, where they asked me to do an average lap time that is, in my opinion, a lot slower than the lap time I'm capable of around here. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm doing 1:44.8s consistently around here, I am going to be, you know, getting my arse handed to me by the cars behind, basically. So I definitely need to be going a bit faster than that. We actually did come under a bit of pressure from Roman Stanek there, but fortunately managed to hold him off. And now I'm just trying to break back into this DRS range of the cars in front. They broke away for a little bit, but I think Iwasa and Martins are the 2 cars that are racing for the lead here. So we'll see. They might hold the field up a little bit as we make our way towards the end of lap number 12 now and onto the start of lap 13. We've got one more lap left on this objective. We are well under the average lap time. All I can hope is that it was showing as red, so I was a bit concerned as Stanek attacks us once again, but I think we should be able to hold on to this without too much of an issue. Yeah, I was a bit concerned actually that it wanted me to do an average lap time within a certain threshold of this 1:44.89, and if I went too much faster than it, it was still going to fail me because the time gap was showing as being red rather than, you know, green or something like that. It was a bit confusing. But as we make our way now towards the end of lap 13 and to the end of the objective, you can see we did pass it, so it didn't really care that much about the me being significantly under the lap time that they were hoping for. And as we make our way now into lap 14, you can see I am so close to being in that DRS range, and actually we have managed to just about get it on this occasion. So as we switch to the replay camera here, you'll see whether we're able to get ahead of Jack Doohan or not. We've left it very late to try and go for a move into the hairpin, and I think we maybe made a bit of contact there by the looks of things, but as we race, we are wheel to wheel with the Invicta Virtuosi car of Jack Doohan, Alpine Academy driver of course, but into turn 10 he closes the door on us a little bit, and we're just not quite able to make the move stick. He's got the DRS on the car in front of Jahan Daruvala in the MP, so it's going to be difficult for us to get ahead of Doohan with the DRS now, and I think we're just going to have to settle for being in P5 for the time being. But there's still a couple more laps here to try and get ahead of Doohan. I don't think we're quite going to be able to make our way up onto the podium, if I'm perfectly honest, but I still think there is an opportunity. Yes, we are in a bit of a DRS train, but there's still an opportunity, I think, for us to get into P4 ahead of the Alpine Academy driver of Jack Doohan, another teammate of mine from a parallel universe, of course. I'm not going to make too much reference to this now we've moved on to a new game, but certainly it is exciting to be racing with these drivers whom I have such storied histories with. And as Iwasa and Daruvala actually go wheel to wheel a bit through turn 4 there, that has left me a position where I might actually be able to go for a move now on Doohan. He got held up quite a lot. I think Martans is now definitely going to win this race, but as we dive up the inside of Jack Doohan into the hairpin, we actually make what I can only describe as the cleanest overtake we've made all weekend, and we make our way up into P4. So this has been a very strong race for us here today. I am extremely happy with how the feature race has gone. This is the one with the opportunity to score big points as well. You only get 10 points for winning the sprint race, but I'm going to get more points than that for coming 4th here in the feature race. So that just goes to show that I turned up when it mattered, I delivered when it was important, and I think as a result of this we might actually be leaving this weekend with more points than Oliver Behrman, depending on where he finishes in the race. It does look like it's going to be Victor Martans that's going to be winning this one. We're not quite going to get onto the podium, and we're not going to get fastest lap either, which does confer an additional point as well. I think Iwasa got 2 extra points for getting pole position as well. I forgot to mention that's also a rule in Formula 2. There's just so much stuff to keep on top of, But as we've now rounded the final corner, we are going to cross the line to take P4 here in the feature race, a considerable improvement over what happened in the sprint race, and hopefully maybe a good foundation for us to build a championship challenge on. We get driver of the day for good measure, and hopefully this will be the start of a good season for us.
A great win then for the ART team today.
Well, they've sent that one, haven't they? Brilliant start to the season, and that's exactly what they wanted for their early points tally.
An amazing race today, and a very well-deserved one too. The team worked very hard to get exactly the right setup out of the F2 car that works for them, and the results speak for themselves. ARTGP winners today.
Well, there we go. Victor Martans is the winner here today. Ayumu Iwasa is 2nd place, and it is Jahan Daruvala completing the podium. India will be very happy with the outcome of this weekend. 2 Indian drivers on the podium across the 2 races. They'll be very pleased with that. I don't doubt, but I'm sure that Victor Martans will be even more pleased to take the opening victory.
There will be plenty more twists and turns to come this season. I hope you'll join us at the next race when Formula 2 returns.
Have a quick check. Brad Benavidez down in P21 there. It is going to be a tough season for him. Unfortunately, he is one of the worst rated drivers in the game, I believe, with 58 rating. He's tied with the likes of Cordial and Nissani as well. And we actually find ourselves in P5 in the Drivers' Championship after getting that P4 result there. So we are far from out of it at the moment, and we also are in P5 in the Constructors' standings as well, with a very considerable 12 points. ART currently leading that charge with 28. Victor Martans, of course, with the feature race win, leading the Drivers' Championship as well. So it will be interesting to see if we can continue to have some strong races and hopefully make our way into that championship fight. Next up will be the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, I believe, in Jeddah, which is not a circuit that I was typically too hot on in Formula 1 23, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether anything has changed with regards to that, because, you know, like I said, the tracks are so like game specific, depending on whether I actually can perform there or not. I found this yesterday when I was racing around Japan on my stream, where I suddenly find I don't have really anywhere near as much pace as I'm used to having around Japan, but then there are other tracks where suddenly I find I have a lot more pace now. So yeah, it really is kind of game specific. It really does just depend on the game itself, the way the car handles, and the way that you can approach the game as to which tracks you're going to be fast at, which tracks you're going to be slow at. And yeah, as sad as it is, it seems I am no longer a Japan specialist like I was on F1 23. So we will have to find a new track for us. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Bahrain on the face of this, but you know, take it with a grain of salt. These were my first 2 hours playing the game, so of course, you know, there's still going to be a bedding in process. I'm still obviously calibrating the difficulty as well. I did bump it down to 97 for the sprint race after I had for the feature race, sorry, after I had a difficult sprint race. So yeah, we had a bit more success on 97. Hopefully we'll be able to keep delivering good consistent performances. If I can maybe improve my qualifying a little bit, there definitely was room for me to go a little bit faster in the qualifying that we had in Bahrain this weekend. So yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about us having some better chances if we can just kind of get on top of the car performance and not kind of, you know, do these mistakes in qualifying and stuff like that. I think that things could potentially go a lot better for us. We are going to be looking at our rating improvement here, and then that's basically, you know, all we have to talk about here. So that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.